And then there is what went down Saturday morning. If you've not heard, and I can't imagine that you've not heard, a group of individuals descended upon Nashville, Tennessee, downtown area, Saturday morning. They walked around the downtown area to include walking around the Tennessee State Capitol, to include walking about the grounds of the Legislative Plaza, wearing black pants, red shirts, black masks, black gloves, and in some cases toting Nazi flags.
Actually, not to pick the nit, but this was odd to me because they weren't Nazi flags. They were black flags with white swastikas on them.
Yeah, I mean, most people
to me was very, very odd. It was almost like, why are you messing with the design? What's the point of that?
I don't know.
That was weird. Didn't it seem weird to you?
I've never seen flags of that design before. I didn't think of it quite that way, but I get what you're saying. Like, why not just go with the red and the swastika? Right. Why are you doing the black with the white swastika? Are you trying to change it up for some reason? Maybe they got a discount online. I don't know. I had not thought about that, but that is interesting. Maybe this design of the flag, Bell, with the swastika and the white and the black better matches their Antifa flags. You know, because you want to match when you're in the garage. So there's a lot to unpack about this. But let's start here so people can hear me loudly and clearly. There is no. I want to say this the right way. Anyone that engages in groupthink, that believes in the inherent genetic superiority of one group of people over another group of people, these are what Matt Murphy describes as disgusting pieces of slime that do not believe in individual freedoms and liberties, because if they did believe in individual freedoms and liberties, they would recognize that the individual supersedes the group and that individuals are just that, individually purposed by God and designed by God as said same. Anyone that promotes group bigotry or group prejudice based on the idea that one group is inferior to another group, or really for most any reason that I can think of, those individuals are equally disgusting and pieces of filth. The Nazi ideology has been destroyed as a filthy, disgusting, evil ideology. And it should be condemned. And it has been roundly, soundly, by every single person that I've spoken with or that I've seen comment on what went down Saturday morning. There is no one that has accepted or approved of any of this that went down Saturday, which I think is the point. And I certainly know of at least 3 and potentially more political figures that have used this as an opportunity to try to take advantage of a situation from a political perspective. And I'm going to set that aside for a moment, and I'm going to speak to that in a moment. I don't know, nor do you know. Now, we have some inkling as to who these people are, but none of us know who these people are because on purpose and intentionally, they concealed themselves, which leads to a lot of questions. Who are they? Are they actually who they say they are? They look like cosplay actors. It looks ridiculous. They could not look more absurdly clown showish ridiculous if they put on the Klan robes, complete with the hoods, and march down Main Street in that garb. You look like a bunch of clowns. And maybe that's the point. If you don't know, let me give you the details, and then we'll back up and break it down and analyze it. At some point Saturday morning, early afternoon, it was around lunchtime. So I guess it really technically wasn't even morning. So at some point on Saturday, this group of roughly 24 individuals came into town, and I've seen video of either them coming into town or exiting town in the back of a U-Haul trailer. So they rented this group, apparently. I don't know this, but we can make certain assumptions. Apparently, rented a U-Haul, got into their little costumes in the U-Haul with their black pants and their black shoes and their red shirts and their black hoods and their caps in some cases. A couple of them had snazzy little black outfits on, like coat and tie. There were a couple of guys that were unmasked at the front of the group. Don't know who they are. Anyway, they got into their costumes and they got into their U-Haul and they got themselves downtown and they unloaded the U-Haul and they came out with the swastikas and the Nazism and the nonsense and the vile, putrid speech. And they marched about and they made spectacles of themselves. And one would assume, because we heard nothing else from them, they left. And now there's a lot of questions about who this group is and who they are not and where they're from and what their purpose was. I approached this as I try to approach everything that I don't have any information about. I don't assume anything. I do not assume anything. I try to gather facts as best I possibly can and then report those facts. And subsequently, I'm going to offer my healthy opinion on these matters. I've already given you my healthy opinion on Nazism, or more broadly, racism and bigotry. Any attempt to subjugate a group of people based on groupthink is wrong. I'm a fierce individualist. You know, I don't belong to any clubs. No clubs that would have me as a member, certainly, but no clubs whatsoever. It is too convenient for me that all of this happened in a bubble, and the first individuals that were aware of it were Democrats. That is interesting. I'll just say that. So over the weekend, I did my best to try to figure out who this group was and what sort of advertising they did of their event, because one would presume that if an organized group was coming into the city for the purpose to draw attention to their cause, whatever that cause might be, however evil that cause might be, if you want to draw attention to said cause, you're going to do some level of social media advertising of what you plan on doing. Does that make sense to anyone? Well, that didn't apparently happen here. The group is reportedly a part of the Blood Tribe neo-Nazi group. We'll talk about that group in just a moment. We'll take your calls on all of this, and we'll tell you the first to report the events happening in downtown Nashville. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So let's run down the basics of what we found out, or what we know about what happened early Saturday afternoon in downtown Nashville. Before I do, I remind you that this is the Matt Murphy Show. It's 1229, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I failed to mention, as noted by Bell K and others on the Super Text line, the Members Nutrition Super Text line, I failed to note that it is episode 514 of today's proceedings. We can be found on Super Talk TV. If you're a masochist and want to look at what my face looks like for 3 hours, come on. I'm right here. Super Talk TV is up on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and today's episode, 514, is entitled.
I try to keep them relative to the show, but this has been bugging me all weekend, so I had to put it out there as a question for the audience. If your flight's departing, Matt Murphy Show, if your flight's departing, is it still called a terminal?
You know, George Carlin had a nice bit about calling it a terminal.
Did he?
Yeah.
Did we get any resolution to this question? Do I need to go look this up?
Well, I just remember that a part of that bit, he does a complete thing about the announcements on airplanes and how ridiculous they are. And, you know, in the event of a loss of cabin pressure. I just remember a couple of things about that bit. And for those who have seen it, you'll know immediately that if in the event of a loss of cabin pressure, the plane's crashing, you find the need to utilize your oxygen mask, please apply your mask before applying a mask to those who are younger or need assistance. And he said, well, there's a little piece of information that I don't need to know. Let me tell you something, sweetheart. If the plane's going down at 580 miles an hour from 30,000 feet, it's time for little Sally Joe next to me to learn a bit of self-reliance when it comes to that oxygen mask. It's very funny. Matt writes in, and I'm going to answer this question coming up. Why is every host on the station playing into this idea that we don't know who they are? This might have been a Democrat trick. I sincerely can't understand because the information for who these guys are is readily available. They have a history. And just like other Nazi groups, they go on national tours. There was one 7 or 8 years ago in Chattanooga when I lived there. We know who this group was and we know who the leader is, so why are we playing the we just don't know game? Matt, I would invite you to call the radio show. I know your number. I could call you if you wanted me to. But you should call us, and I will give you carte blanche to expose these individuals. One of the reasons that I choose not to expose the Blood Tribe, and I'm about to get into who the Blood Tribe are, by the way, so you jumped the gun just a little bit. But one of the reasons that I hesitate to bring up the Blood Tribe is because I believe that this is a minuscule portion of a minuscule portion of a minuscule portion of a minuscule portion of the American population. And to give them undue airtime is to do or to accomplish what they want to accomplish. At the same time, I think it's important to expose these people for the absolute clowns that they are. These are a bunch of circus clowns, and they need to be treated as such. They are cosplayers. They do not engage in the American process. They do not engage in America as I understand it. They choose to act like the worst type of human beings that they could possibly imagine in their own heads for their own purposes. I have no idea what's inside of their hearts. I know their actions speak louder than their words, and their actions are disgusting and repugnant. Is that good enough for you, Matt? I can go further. I started off my show condemning it, and will always condemn it. But that doesn't mean that there aren't questions about how all of this went down and what its purpose was. And we'll continue to ask those questions on this show as well. Super Talk 99.7 WTN 1238. Getting to your calls momentarily as we just get this thing underway. We're here till 3 o'clock on the Matt Murphy portion of the broadcast day. We call it Murphy Show. Thank you for being around. 615-737-9986 on the talk lines. You can also text us on the Members Nutrition Super Text line, 615-737-WWTN. So we believe that this group of clown show cosplayers are a neo-Nazi group called Blood Tribe. It is believed that one of the individuals involved in this group is a man by the name of Kent McClellan, a.k.a. Boneface. I'm going to refer to him as Bonehead as opposed to Boneface. So
is he the ginger? Ginger?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. Here's the thing. Liberals love this because liberals believe that this and this is the deal, right? Nobody knows the impetus behind which all of this happens as of yet. We'll find out, I presume. Let me give you the lowdown as I understand it. Everyone wants to believe that they know specifically why all of this happened. For the political left, they are immediately jumping on this and using it for their own purposes. Justin Jones, Justin Pearson, Afton Ben. By the way, You have Afton's number?
I do.
Give Afton a call and see if she'd be willing to come on with us to explain. I just want to know the nature of why she was down at her office Saturday morning.
Okay.
Afton Ben was the first sitting representative that I know of that put any of this out on social media. She put it out just before the Justin Jones video came out, in which she said, my people, my staff are monitoring the situation at the Capitol regarding neo-Nazis, and we'll let you know. And there was a photograph of neo-Nazis. I'm not here to attack her. I just want to know how she knew about it.
Okay.
Or who found out about it. Similarly, Justin Jones found out about it. Now, there was no real advertising pre-event. One would suppose that these individuals believe that they'll get plenty of publicity post-event, and it is true. It is true. I expect that you would have a hard time filling Nissan Stadium with these types of people from all across America. Meaning, if we take what these people are saying at face value, that they believe in this stupidity of, white power and, all this garbage. If you take the nonsense that they spew at face value, and I don't necessarily, I do not believe that you could fill Nissan Stadium with the number of genuine white supremacists that we have in the United States of America. And so most of us recognize that this is not, while it is a problem anywhere that it exists, it does not in any way represent Republicans. It does not represent conservatives. It does not represent individuals that believe in the Constitution of the United States. It does not represent Donald Trump or Donald Trump supporters. And it does not represent the leadership that exists in the General Assembly or in the governor's office in the state of Tennessee. But immediately, the Justin Jones, Afton Ben, Justin Pearson crowd are suggesting that this is what you get because you have Republicans in the state of Tennessee. Justin Jones, this is exactly what my Republican colleagues' hate speech is fostering and inviting. If Justin Jones had the cojones, he would come on the show and explain to me what he means by that. What hate speech is he discussing? He has been repeatedly invited on my radio show, and he's repeatedly declined. And I'll set up any parameters and any rules he wants. He can bring as many people as he wants. I'm not afraid of having a discussion with a socialist or a Marxist or any est for that matter. So no one knows the true motivations of the individuals involved except those individuals. Now, all we can do is base what we know on their actions, and their actions are disgusting and gross and repugnant. And we say it has no place in our community. At the same time, it is not illegal to march and express repugnant and disgusting views. So those that are saying, we need to do something about this, well, I'm open ears. What are we supposed to do something about? You can't make people being gross and thinking gross things illegal. And it's my understanding they had no permit to march. So what they were doing by keeping moving and not assembling for any length of time was preventing the Metro Nashville Police Department from dispersing them in an orderly fashion. More to come on all of this, but suffice it to say there are more questions than answers with regard to the motivations behind these individuals outside of their desire to get attention. And apparently, if this is the group we think it is, this Blood Tribe group, they go to different communities, they jump out of U-Hauls, they march in the streets in their red and black and their cosplay outfits, acting like idiots, and then they jump back in and they go off to the next town. I don't know if they're trying to rally support or whatever. I would like to believe that all they're going to get is a bunch of one-finger salutes. Chad is in Nashville with a thought on all of this. Hey, Chad, glad you called. How are you?
I'm well. Joe Biden likes Bud Light, by the way. Anyway, so my first thought was bought and paid for by Justin Jones, and then blonde chick you just mentioned her name was on the news this morning. But at the same time, I didn't see him going through busting any boot store windows open and running out with expensive boots. That's all I really had to say.
Well, thank you, Chad. I don't know how long they were there. I mean, this group, if it is the Blood Tribe, they made headlines last year when some of their members protested outside of Disney World. They've also been said to have protested in Ohio for some reason. The protest outside of Disney World, according to Tennessee Star, and I forget who wrote the article. Tom Pappert of the Tennessee Star wrote this article, saying that the members protested outside of Disney World in support of measures taken by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis against the woke corporation. Shortly after the appearance at the protest in Florida, it was revealed that this bonehead guy, McClellan, who has covered his entire face and upper body in racist and neo-Nazi tattoos, claimed to have volunteered to fight in Ukraine. And that record of foreign service is in dispute. Nobody really knows.